We're finally getting a glimpse into the life and the consequences of the Smallfolk in House of the Dragon Season 2 with the episode titled The Smallfolk. Guys, this is Season 2, Episode 6 of House of the Dragon. So yeah, it's a smaller episode, not in length, but in scope and scale. It's really about the workings of the characters and obviously the Smallfolk rather than having more bombastic battle scenes or action scenes. This season has been really, really tame compared to what we were expecting from the ending of Season 1. And this episode continues to bring that tame energy while still bringing the intrigue, in my opinion. Anyways, with that being said, let's check this episode out and dive deep, scene by scene, into this week's House of the Dragon breakdown. If you're new here, hit that like and subscribe. Also, memberships are available. Don't have to do that, but if you do, you'll be featured in the end of my credits on every video. So let's do this. Now, we obviously start out with the intro and we take a look at that every week. And this week we have an update on the intro. We see what looks like, obviously, the Red Dragon and the Gold, which was the title of last week's episode. And we see a kingly figure standing in the middle, which could be Aegon. Obviously, it was written that he was the destroyer of Meleys and the winner of the battle because he's the king and you got to give him credit. Even though it was mostly Aemond and Kristen Cole who should take that title. But we see Aegon with a sword standing in between these two dragons. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's him. But yeah, finally, a new addition to the tapestry for the intro. We then get a cute little meet-up here, a meet-cute, if you will, of the Lannisters. This is actually Jason Lannister, the twin brother to Tywin Lannister, and he's meeting in the Westerlands here with Humphrey Lefford. And it's funny because he brags about having double the size of his army.
500 fighting men, armed and full of spirit.
I bring 1,000 knights of my own, and 7 times as many archers.
It's like, bro, why are you bragging about having a bigger army when you need a bigger army? Anyways, Jason's just a funny guy. He even brings lions with him to war. Maybe he feels like he needs to flex on the Targaryens because they have dragons. He's like, look, we got beasts too, except ours are not able to fly and we can't communicate with them or control them, so we just keep them in cages like circus animals. But Jason Lannister has a stipulation here. He's not going to march on Harrenhal until he gets a dragon, because lions aren't enough for him to take over Harrenhal. He still needs to beat Daemon's dragon, so he needs Aemond there so he can feel secure and not getting his ass burnt while going to Harrenhal.
I want you to send a raven to King's Landing. Tell my brother we are ready to march as soon as Prince Aemond is able to join us on Vega.
Smart move, I would say. Let's see how Aemond reacts to that.
He dares to summon me with haste.
I mean, brother, you're the guy who wanted to get on your dragon and go burn shit like the past, I don't know, ever since you had a dragon. I don't know why it's upsetting him so much. It's mostly an ego thing, I guess, but I feel like the old Aemond would have jumped at the actual opportunity to take his dragon out and go burn some shit in the area of Harrenhal, especially that Daemon is there chilling, waiting for some conflict, waiting for a 1v1. And that is probably a top priority for King Regent here. But now that he's king, everything is offensive to him. His whole perspective has changed. His ego has grown beyond control.
There is a large dragon in the Riverlands, Your Grace.
Exactly. A large dragon in the Riverland is present in the form of Caraxes. I agree with Tywin Lannister here.
My brother's army is strong, but it does seem to
I am the
surprise me
Prince
that-
Regent, not a dog to be called to heel.
Sorry, Prince Regent is the title, not King Regent. And he's not a dog to be called a heel. I'm sorry. Let's respect Prince Regent here. I'm sure he'd prefer King Regent, though.
Tell your brother that if he does not deliver his host to Harrenhal with haste, Daemon's dragon will become the least of his worries.
What exactly does this mean? Is he going to go out and burn his own army? Or is he just going to demote or punish Jason Lannister? I'm not sure. This guy is unhinged. He was this master tactician recently, and now he seems like he's, I don't know, leaning on his power position and letting other people get the job done when before, like I said, he wanted to be the guy. Not sure I like this change from Aemond. Alicent tries to speak up as well, and she's just instantly shut down.
Your irritations are justified, Aemon, but it does seem...
I have a task for you as well, Sir Dylan.
Aemond suggests something completely ridiculous after Alicent tries to be the voice of reason. He says, hey, Tylan, remember the people fighting in the Stepstones, the Triarchy? Yeah, we're going to go make an alliance with them.
We will make an alliance with the Triarchy. I've had enough of this cursed blockade.
This is his best solution? I don't know. Kind of interesting. Kristen Cole gives this little look too, like he's not having it. Hilarious. And the way that Aemond is straddling Tylan here, he's really, this scene is really all about him embracing his power position or over-embracing it, quite literally. Alicent says that, yeah, you can make a deal with them, but you can't trust the deal that you make.
The Triarchy may play at accepting terms, but they are not to be trusted. Your father knew this.
They then mention the Greyjoys for once, I guess maybe twice this season. The Greyjoys have been mentioned, so that's cool. We might get to see the Greyjoys at some point.
What has come of our letters to the Greyjoys?
They have been to no avail.
Maybe in like 5 seasons. Kidding, but seriously, when are the Greyjoys going to come in? When is the Red Kraken going to bust through the door and help out? Or should I say, break through the surface? Is an ocean water joke? Okay, forgive me. Then Ironrod here has a 5,000 IQ play. He's going to offer Alicent to marry one of the Greyjoys for an alliance.
Though we may draw him in with honey, if it comes to it. An offer of marriage, perhaps, to the Dowager Queen.
Absolute power move. I don't know if I would have the balls to say that in front of her, but he does. Look at it, he's so confident. He's always dropping bombs straight up to people's faces in these meetings. The guy's just hilarious. Then we get a little bit of backup from Kristen Cole here, backing up his current or ex-lover. Very unclear if they're still shagging. But yeah, he's going in for Alicent at this meeting. That's a nice change of pace.
The Dowager Queen speaks wisely, Your Grace. Even if the blockade could be broken, are we to invite these alien raiders into our waters so close to King's Landing?
I love Kristen Cole's little terms for people. He calls Rhaenyra a cunning spider. He calls the Triarchy alien raiders, which is kind of true. They're from a foreign place, and they do raid things. So spot on analysis from Kristen Cole here. But Aemond says, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to actually send you to ride out to Harrenhal. How about that?
It's time you set out for Harrenhal, I think.
That sounds way better than having you talk back to me at my council meetings now, since I'm your Prince Regent. Aemond is not interested in any of Kristen Cole's back talk, and he basically says, look, if we keep waiting, Daemon is going to take that shit over, and we need to move now.
The longer we wait, the more chance he will prevail. Lannister will march from the west, take what strength we have, and force Daemon and his riverlords to fight on 2 fronts.
I would say, why doesn't Kristen Cole go meet up with Jason Lannister and his lions, and they can all combine forces with Aemond and just take Harrenhal by storm overnight? I mean, they don't really know it yet, but perhaps they could find a way to gather some insight and turn all the houses that previously woke Daemon up in the middle of the night saying they're not going to follow him because he's a tyrant, an evil tyrant. Maybe they could just, I don't know, pull a few strings, take all those houses up underneath their wing, meet up with Jason Lannister. I mean, you got a dragon, you got Kristen Cole's army, you got Tylan Lannister's army, you got that new army they've gathered of 500 people in the Westerlands, and you've got a huge force and no one to back Daemon. So yeah, gonna be curious to see how it plays out if they wait any longer and if Aemond just sits in his chair at home. Not sure how that's gonna work out for you, bud, but we'll see. Time will tell. Aemond then says this, though.
I'll fly out to meet you when the time is ripe. My uncle is a challenge I welcome.
My uncle's a challenge I welcome. Then get your ass out there and go challenge him. He's waiting for you. He's at his lowest point. I don't know. Maybe you could have some of Larys' spies give you any intel. I don't know what Larys is doing with his whole Harrenhal thing. Does he have any spies up there that could give decent intel for them to make moves? Not sure. Not sure. It seems nobody agrees with Aemond.
I see we're all agreed.
Oh, I see we're all agreed. Yeah, just because the Prince Regent says so, it must be true. He then calls his mother over so he can essentially fire her from the council meetings.
Mother, you served the realm well, at a time of need. That need is ended.
Alicent tries to make a play saying, I represented your father, the other king, Viserys, very well. I ruled in his stead, basically. I got shit done. But Aemond just doesn't care. He's like, no, it's too late. And she's trying to be a mother here. Look at her, grasping his face, getting close to him like she never, ever did before, at least on screen. And he's not having it.
You have the gratitude of the crown.
But at least she has the gratitude of the crown. Yeah, really good for her. We then cut to Corlys Valaryon standing in the council room for the Blacks, and I think he's finally accepting his position as Hand here, as he pins it on himself and waits for the council to arrive. He's like that guy who's always first in at the job, last out. He's going to take this job seriously. Notice how he doesn't show up late. We then get Sir Steffan Darklyn walking into the meeting because he's going to have a very important role for a very short amount of time, as Rhaenyra is trying to get him to become a Dragonrider due to the small amount of Targaryen blood or ancestry he might have.
There is still Daemon and Caraxes and the Rivermen.
Yes, there's still Daemon, Caraxes, and the Riverman, but no, we don't know what the hell Daemon's doing, so get your ass on that dragon, Sir Darklyn.
In any case, I must now proceed as if I stand alone. And I see now that to do that, I need more dragon riders.
Notice how Rhaenyra says, I must proceed as if I stand alone. And the camera cuts to Jace, and he's constantly being kind of downplayed by Rhaenyra, protected, sheltered, not allowed to fly free, literally and figuratively. And you see this look on his face as, he's kind of questioning, you're not alone, you have me, you have a dragon rider, you have a prince who will maybe soon be king if you die. Let me help you. But no, instead, she's got to rely on people like Darklyn because she wants to protect her assets. And also, it was Jace's idea to put this dude on a dragon too, so can't really give him too much leeway here, if you will.
I need more dragon riders for Vermithor and Silverwing, and for Seasmoke, who I believe misses his bond.
So they talk about Vermithor, Silverwing, and Seasmoke, which are the open dragons for riders. I think they're the domesticated dragons. I think there are a few non-domesticated dragons, wild dragons like Sheepstealer, who we get a reference to later in this episode. But the top three candidates are those three. And the one who's been shown the most to be hovering around and maybe vying for a rider by crying out in several different scenes is Seasmoke. So we're going to get some Seasmoke action. And he misses his bond. Now, does that mean Laenor Targaryen or Laenor Valaryon is dead? Or does the bond diminish over time and distance away from a rider? It's said in the books that only when the rider dies, I believe. But in the show, it's never quite stated when the bond is released between dragon and rider.
But there are no more in your family, Your Grace.
Darklyn, that's where you're wrong.
The Darklins and the Targaryens had some common blood. I looked into the history, and indeed it is true.
You have 1% blood, so get on that dragon, buddy. Let's go. Hope you don't burn. Oh, turns out he does burn, and doesn't go well for him. Him and a dragon tamer, if you will, both go down in flames. Anyways, now that we've jumped forward to the dragon taming, because that scene was so heavily linked, I kind of smashed them together. Let's go back to Daemon at Harrenhal. And who's he meeting up with in this week's Weirwood Dream? Well, it's none other than his brother, Viserys.
Did you say it? The heir for a day.
The heir for a day, did you say it? Now, this is a callback to season 1, I think episode 2, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Daemon has a little celebration in the local pub talking about honoring, air quotes, the young, fallen, stillborn baby of King Viserys, who was the heir for a day, because the baby only lived for like a day. And it was a big insult to Viserys, and it was something that caused a rift in their relationship, leading to Daemon getting banished to go back to his wife. And this angered, this hurt the pride of King Viserys and showed Daemon's true character when instead of being there for his brother, he was celebrating almost selfishly because it meant that he now had a position as heir back, which he relinquished when the son was born. This also caused everything we're seeing on screen in this season and everything thereafter, all the conflict, because Daemon, if he acted in the proper way towards his family, towards Viserys, showed respect and became a better person, he might have just got that seat as heir. But in order to spite Daemon, and because Daemon proved unworthy in Viserys' eyes, he promoted Rhaenyra to the position of heir to the throne, which caused everything that's played out since. So really, this is the inciting incident for the Dance of the Dragons, if you want to look at it from that perspective. And honestly, just a nice, performance here from Paddy Considine. As always, Daemon tries to escape this vision, run away, and he can't. The doors are locked on him. He's trapped in his own mind until Simon Strong opens the door for Daemon, awakening him from his dream or his vision.
Or are you perhaps the culprit who has been tampering with my peace?
He's in full paranoia mode right now, and I would be too. He even goes full out and threatens Simon with a knife to the throat, basically. He's got the knife all the way in his lip. Like, look how scared Lord Simon is here. This is outrageous. He's a nice guy. He's fed you. He's gave you a weirwood bed, gave you freaky dreams. Maybe that was actually Alice Rivers and not the weirwood, but he's been pretty hospitable for all intents and purposes. So let my guy go here. Look at this. He even starts shushing Daemon. He's like, calm down, little baby boy. Daemon does not know how to handle this. He's like, what are you doing to me, old man? Are you shushing me like a baby? And Simon is so confused. I don't know if Simon is in on these dreams or not, or if he is completely, in the dark, so to speak, about what's going on in Daemon's head. Does he think Daemon is just absolutely insane? Or does he know that Daemon is having visions? And does he know what's in those visions? That would be interesting to find out. Daemon then heads down these steps trying to leave Harrenhal for good. He's just going to give it quits. He's done. But who's there to stop him but Alice Rivers? A nice little shot here as well of Caraxes and the weirwood tree, two of the symbols of dominating forces of magic in the world of Westeros, in the same frame, right next to each other, left and right. So interesting to see. Also, we got this little cracked building down here. Harrenhal is just an absolute wreck.
You aren't going to bid me farewell?
There's something wrong with me. Someone poisoned me.
Daemon thinks he's been poisoned?
Or else it's his swamp air or...
The ghost of...
Oh, yeah, maybe it was the swamp air, Daemon. I like that. More likely, it's this bitch right here. Sorry, this witch, Alice Rivers.
The ghost of Harren the Black moaning his curses from Kingspire Tower?
Drivel!
Alice talks about Harren the Black moaning his curses from Kingspire Tower. I think that is where the king was burned alive by Aegon Targaryen during the conquest. And so maybe there's some haunted spirits of past kings or past lords. And she's using that as an excuse to say they're taking over Daemon's visions. But really, I think it's just her. I really do.
When something does not please you, you run. Dragonstone, Stepstones, Pentos, Harrenhal.
Alice calls out Daemon saying, this is your way. This is what you do. Something happens that doesn't agree with you, you just run. And to be honest, it's kind of true. Although Stepstones, I would argue that he got shit done there, okay? Stepstones, I'm going to have to step in and argue with, because I'm not sure if he ran away from that. He ran headfirst into that conflict and solved it himself, basically. Now, was he there for a reason of running away from his duties at court? Maybe, but did it get a problem solved that needed to be solved? Absolutely.
You are not the player, but a piece on the board.
It's like she can see this 3D chess game playing out. Maybe she has some of the same visions or powers, magical abilities that Helaena has, where she's seeing past, present, and future at the same time. In the book, they call those green seers, I believe. She then talks about the reason why Daemon might have never been given the crown in the first place is because he wanted it too much.
The crown. She spared it no thought.
Well, that's perhaps why your brother gave the crown to her. Perhaps those who strive for it are the least suited to wear it.
Viserys was someone who originally didn't want the crown as well, compared to Rhaenys, who seemed to really covet that idea of being queen. And she was then forever after known as the queen who never was, although she seems to have gotten over that towards the end of her life. But it was certainly something that spurned her and something that she really wanted compared to Viserys, who was chosen by the people. Daemon then finally sits down, exposes himself a little bit, and asks for help from Alice.
If you have any counsel for dealing with the River Lords, I'd be glad of it.
Daemon Targaryen asking for help?
Yeah, Daemon asking for help. I know, right? Unheard of. Unheard of. He usually just bashes in somebody's skull and then goes running out in the open by himself. Crazy guy.
House Tully is not the largest house in the Riverlands, nor is it the richest, but it is the most stable.
Alice refers to the Riverlands and House Tully and how they need House Tully to lock down the Riverlands, but Daemon calls them a bunch of idiots.
That dotard is of no use to us.
Well, specifically, he calls the Grandpa Lord Tully, the old guy in charge who shits himself and can barely see or talk. He calls him a dotard, which is kind of fair. That guy needs to go. And that guy needs to go fast if Daemon is going to take charge of House Tully and the Riverlands. So what does Alice say to him about this?
I need help, Alice.
Do nothing now.
Oh, she says do nothing. That's fine. But how are you going to help me? Is what Daemon's saying here.
In 3 days' time, the winds will shift.
In 3 days' time, the winds will shift. What is she going to do? We'll find out shortly. The next scene in the episode, if you're going by time code, is the Lord Darkland scene. We already showed he burned. He did not get Seasmoke. I'm sorry, my guy. Moving forward. We then cut to the shipyard where obviously we're going to find Lord Corlys and we're going to find Adam and Alan of Hull, the bastard sons of Corlys Valaryon. Alan has not shaved his head today yet, so he's wearing a bit of a turban, if you will. And this is to cover up his golden, silverish hair that represents him being, a Valaryon, which is something he seems to be ashamed of, or at least rejecting, because Corlys so far has rejected him his whole life. And Alan doesn't really want to be seen as affiliated with Corlys. Maybe because it might cause him trouble, and maybe because he's ashamed of being a bastard. So a lot of motivations behind Alan kind of hiding his identity, obviously. But Corlys says, hey, get your shit together and come sail with me. You saved my life once, you might need to do it again.
I wish you to sail with me as my first mate.
Alan tries to reject this notion.
I'm grateful for the offer, my lord. There are more experienced men at your service.
But Corlys convinces him to kind of see the light and perhaps actually come together and sail with him.
You distinguished yourself in the Stepstones, and you have the respect of the crew.
Well, not really convinces him, he just kind of makes him do it.
I will expect you to report for your duties on the morrow.
It's my lordship commands.
Well done, Corlys. I mean, he is a valuable guy. I could see why you want him. He saved your life once. Maybe he's going to start opening up a relationship with Alan as they hit the high seas together. Also, Corlys being a hand, he's just going to sail off into the blockade. Interesting choice. I thought maybe he would be needed more for making power moves and strategizing at Dragonstone, but I guess they're losing another member of their board meeting instantly. Nice. Alan sort of looks over in sort of dismay and sort of disapproval as it took this long for Adam to finally get pushed into service with Corlys. Adam's been begging for Alan to take this gig the whole time. And he's like, finally, it took you long enough. We then cut to a little restaurant, pub in Flea Bottom, King's Landing, likely, as we see Ulf, we see Diana, and we see Sylvie in the background having a little conversation over some soup here, some stew.
Bit thin, isn't it?
It's either that or the fish.
Nothing but fish in this damn city.
And it almost seems like a very staged conversation here between the three of them.
An ale here. Ought to eat with it.
I don't think I can stomach it, lass.
As these small folk look on to this very open conversation, Sylvie talks about the higher-ups in the Red Keep, the lords and ladies, feasting during this time of famine, during this blockade, during this, starvation period for the small folk.
Makes you sick, doesn't it? Knowing they're banqueting every night at the castle, while we go without.
That can't be true.
This was the plan of Rhaenyra and the White Worm. That's why they sent Rhaenyra's handmaiden to meet and treat with Diana here, the serving lady. And they've now perhaps contrived a scenario where they can stir up some trouble amongst the small folk by instigating the idea of the suffering, the disparity between the higher ups, the haves and the have-nots. very loudly, very out in the open.
And well fed, too. Brats of lamb, my love. Mince pies, honey cakes, beef and gravy.
Now, even if Ulf isn't in on this conversation, he is one to spread rumors. He's known to be the guy who talks boldly and loudly to everyone he knows, and everyone seems to maybe even respect his opinion or at least hear him out. And he's the perfect guy to have this conversation in front of. So even if it's just Diana and Sylvie playing out this act in front of Ulf and he's unaware that he's being kind of forced into this scheme as an outsider, it still is a very effective idea to have this conversation specifically in front of him. I mean, look at his face as they're talking about racks of lamb, honey pies, etc., all the good stuff. And Ulf and the other small folk are just like, huh? Beef and gravy? Are you kidding me? All I've had is shit stew and possibly dog meat and fish. Oh my gosh. Sylvie and Ulf then get into this direct one-on-one here.
King Viserys loved his feasts and his wine, but never while us small folk went without.
He's defending King Viserys, who is a defender of Rhaenyra. So either knowingly or unknowingly, Ulf is swaying the public to the fact that the Greens might be the bad guys here, even though they rule King's Landing and they, quote, rightfully do so. They might be the bad guys because he's defending Viserys.
But he's gone now, and his rightful heir denied her seat.
Even Sylvie says out loud, his rightful heir denied her seat. This is very dangerous for them to be doing. They basically put this conversation in to show the tactics of Rhaenyra and to show the war propaganda that is being spread by her and by the White Worm to build up to the riot that happens later on in this episode. We then get Lord Keltgar and Rhaenyra walking in this hallway, and he starts reprimanding her for making that decision to sacrifice Lord Darkland.
Seasmoke has fled Dragonstone, and Sir Stefan was a valiant knight.
But she's not having all this back talk, and it's finally been enough for her, and she gives him the good old Will Smith.
We may yet retake...
You know, I don't quite agree with this slap. I think that he was being rather very respectful and trying to speak his mind in a very logical way. So, was this slap really worth it? I feel like maybe a conversation would be in order, but Rhaenyra has been shown to just be an absolutely terrible leader this season. Outside of her plan with the White Worm to spread the propaganda, she hasn't really made any move that has gotten her anywhere. She wasted her time with Alicent. She's now burned one of her valiant knights by trying to get him on a dragon. She has failed to make any move to gather armies. She can't even control Daemon and come to peace with him to secure the Riverlands. So I feel like I'm on his side. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry, Rhaenyra. You're doing a terrible job.
We may yet retake...
It is my fault, I think, that you have forgotten to fear me.
You can't just go around slapping people and expect them to respect you. You have to do things, Rhaenyra. You have to do things. So do them, please. We then get a scene with her testing out different swords as if she's going to actually go into battle herself. Like, she has all these fantasies of wanting to be a knight and wanting to be a warrior, even when from when she was little. And it's just like, I don't know, I'm not buying it. You're supposed to be a queen. You're supposed to be on the throne. You're supposed to be ruling, not fighting. So I don't know. The whole thing with her is just, I don't know. I'm not buying it. That's what I'm saying.
Surely it was not the only possibility. Might there not be others among the highborn of the Seven Kingdoms?
And who will be so foolish as to try, after hearing what befell Sir Stefan?
So after Lord Darkland burned, Rhaenyra and the White Worm are having some conflict over who's actually going to want to try to claim a dragon after that. I mean, come on. It's kind of ridiculous. Mysaria then goes on to tell her about the small folk of King's Landing starting to pick up on the rumors or the hearsay or whatever, the propaganda, if you will.
The small folk of King's Landing are listening. The usurpers have abandoned them. They are hungry, and they need someone to blame.
I don't know how time works in this show, by the way, but it seems like everything with Mysaria just happens like that, like boom, 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 boom. I guess they're pretty close. This could be a couple days later. But everything with Mysaria's plot lines are just very convenient and instant. And like I said, she's sort of like a game shark for Rhaenyra, a cheat code, if you will. The Game Shark reference continues to be amazing. I promise you. If you get that, you're my guy or my girl. Mysaria talks about how they've laid the foundations, but they're going to light this shit on fire tonight. And it's going to get bad for the Greens and with the small folk in King's Landing due to their plans coming to fruition. We then see more of Mysaria's plans play out as we cut to King's Landing, where the small folk have ran out of food, yet there is a pile of sheep being driven through the town. Not sure if this was a coincidence or if this was somehow orchestrated by Mysaria for them to be bringing these sheep right through the alley where a lot of the small folk get their food or can no longer get their food. But yeah, that's what's happening here. We then see Ulf shouting again, instigating this whole idea of the disparity.
Got enough sheep for your dragons then, but none for us.
Again, I go back and forth on whether or not he's involved in this scheme or not. It's really quite curious.
Where's our meat? We want meat.
Yeah, where's our meat? We need like a local Arby's installed in here. We need daily deliveries because they have the meats, right? Shitty jokes aside, it is very convenient that they march these sheep right through the middle of the foodless alleyway. And very curious that Ulf is the one shouting and instigating the small folk. Is he or is he not in on the deal with Mysaria? We then get Sir Jasper or Ironrod talking in the council room with Larys and Prince Regent Aemond.
It seems, Your Grace, that the small folk have become restless.
So?
There is not food enough in the city.
Ironrod's talking about how everybody's been hoarding up the food, and those who can't afford to hoard are just starving.
Those with means have bought more than their share.
And they're hoping their master of ships, Sir Tyland, can break the blockade.
All the more reason Sir Tyland must break the blockade.
Perhaps by making that alliance with the Triarchy, as Aemond declared he wanted in the first meeting. Larys then drops a bar here as he says,
"The enemy without may be fought with swords. The enemy within is more insidious."
The enemy within is more insidious. Larys knows that the small folk have power. And I feel like a lot of the people in charge, like Aemond, seem to forget that fact quite a bit. In fact, he doesn't even understand that people will blame the person in charge and not the actual person responsible.
Why is this anger directed at us? It is Rhaenyra the Pretender who ordered the gullet closed and left them all to starve.
If you're in that seat, if you're on that Iron Throne, then it's your ass on the line when people are starving, no matter if there's a blockade or not. It's your job to get them food. So they see you, or they could start to see you as the enemy, even though you have another enemy that's causing these problems for you. And Aemond is just too young, too inexperienced, too naive, perhaps, to even understand this. Or maybe he just doesn't want to acknowledge it because of his ego. Who knows? But he's not quite being a great king here. Larys then makes his play for a hand, which is his ultimate move. He's been trying to get this position ever since, I think, he got to King's Landing.
It does occur to me that Your Grace has yet to name a hand.
He's pushed Otto out. He managed to get on Aegon's good side, but now Aegon is gone for this foreseeable future. And we have Aemond here, who might be a little naive when it comes to the small folk, but when it comes to the large folk, the club-footed folk like Larys, he might not be so naive. He might see through this bullshit plan of Larys.
Sir Criston, of course, served your brother, but you need one who may advance your cause with shrewdness and subtlety.
With shrewdness and subtlety. Ah, just the kind of guy. Larys the shrewd, Larys the subtle. But he's not being so subtle in this meeting here with Aemond, and I fear that he's overplayed his hand, or maybe he's overplayed his foot.
Do you take me for a fool?
Yep, he's overplayed his foot.
On the contrary, my prince.
Have little patience for the self-important Lord Larys.
And he's getting called out by Aemond for basically vying for a position of power that Aemond thinks maybe he doesn't deserve.
Every king needs a hand. I'll make it your responsibility.
He's going to make it his responsibility. Nice, Larys, you got the job, bro.
My prince, it is an honor I've never considered for myself.
Not to serve as hand, you toad.
Oh, never mind. He's just a toad, and he's meant to go fetch Otto Hightower.
My grandsire may be overcautious, but his devotion to his family has never been in doubt.
So he just called out Larys hardcore because he sees right through the backstabbing, cunning nature of Larys Strong. While Larys can get things done, he often does them for the wrong reasons, aka murdering his family so he could have power and get, I don't know, control of Harrenhal and become unobstructed by his family. The guy's a mastermind, a psychotic mastermind, and there's only room for one of those on the council, and it's going to be Aemond himself. So he says, call in Grandpapa Otto Hightower. I don't want a toad as my hand. Then we get the Grand Maester coming in, and he is bringing news of Aegon.
I am happy to report that His Grace the King has regained consciousness this morning.
Oh, Aegon is awake. That's great news for Aemond, right? Let's see what they do. Oh, he's being very gentle. He's shushing him to sleep, you know, making him feel comfortable. He's probably going to do something, you know, very nice here. Let's see what he does.
What do you remember?
He's asking him about the, you know, the glorious day of battle. That's all well and good.
Nothing.
And the way Aegon says nothing, he almost sounds like Vader, some sort of like half man, a shadow of what he once was. Let's listen to that again.
Nothing.
Nothing. Also, his wounds look a lot less severe, so the Maesters are doing a great job at healing him. I feel like he should be burned to a crisp and have way more broken bones, but he just seems to have some scarring on his left rib cage area, his left part of his face, and his leg is broken. Perhaps he has broken ribs as well too, and he's got a headband on, but other than that, he seems to be in good shape considering what happened to him that other episode. And oh, look, a brotherly embrace. Let's see how this plays out. Yeah, not looking good for Aegon.
You challenged Meleys. It was foolish.
That's what he's going to kind of try to paint the narrative as, is obviously Aemond had no part in the downfall of Aegon. It was all Aegon's fault. He challenged Meleys, got burned by Meleys. That's the story, brother. Stick to it, or I'll stick this ball so far in your rib cage, it'll burst into your chest and you'll cease to exist. And I'll drop the word regent from my title and become full-on king, if you know what I'm saying. So this is sort of the mobster, mafia boss, the Don, Aemond, coming to threaten a victim in the hospital. His own victim, but it's his own brother, which makes this all the more sinister. So this episode is just revealing bad guy Aemond. All of his faults are on full display this episode, I would say. He even leaves the ball in Aegon's hand. Like, the ball's in your court now, bro.
You're in the most capable hands, Your Grace.
Sort of as an insult, too. Also knowing that he can't attend the council meetings, so that symbol of power is pointless in the hands of Aegon. Kind of a hilarious gesture from Aemond here. I wonder if that was improvised or written in the script, but a couple things there. Ball's in your court, and what are you going to do with the ball anyways? You can't do anything. You're done. Aemond has all the power now. He also tells the Maesters to treat him well, give him all the medicine you can, keep him drugged up. The guy's a menace.
Seems my brother has a long recovery ahead of him, Grand Maester. See that he is made to rest comfortably.
See that he is to be made to rest comfortably. That means drug him, basically, in code. He doesn't want Aegon to be conscious anymore. He doesn't want to have to deal with him. He doesn't want him to be coherent so that he can spill any of the beans, so to speak. We didn't get a scene with Rhaena and young Joffrey here.
Not all of us, I suppose, are called to great deeds. Some of us must serve in smaller ways.
She's coming to reconcile with the fact that she is not going to be this big, powerful Dragonrider lady like Baela or Rhaenys or Rhaenyra or any of her ancestors from her past that she looks up to, or even her mother, who passed away and was the former rider of Vhagar. So it's really tough for her to be walking this new path in life. But as we see in this scene as well, the burnt remains of a flock of sheep, or a herd of sheep. That is a reference on the nose, and probably definitely a literal reference, to the dragon Sheep Stealer, which is a wild dragon, this is book spoilers, barely, not show spoilers, so turn your ears off for 5 seconds if you don't want to get spoiled on the book. Sheep Stealer is ridden by someone in the book, and it's not Rhaena. So, yeah, what are they going to do with this character, Rhaena here, and Sheepstealer. Is Sheepstealer going to be possibly attempted to be tamed by Rhaena or tamed by another character? Who knows? But they're obviously setting up this storyline like a redemption arc of sorts for Rhaena. And that's all I'm going to say. Who knows how it's going to play out? This is Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, so things could go wildly unexpected. But yeah, very interesting link here as she's talking about foregoing her path as a dragon rider, essentially, with veiled words. And at the same time, she runs up upon the doings of Sheepstealer, a wild dragon, who we get more reference to later on in this episode as well. Here in the next scene, we do see Rhaena and some of the other younger kids of Daemon and Rhaenyra. We do see a baby dragon. Look at that. It's so cute. So cute. We need more baby dragons on this show. The kids are playing with baby dragon figurines, and even Rhaena herself is holding one of the figurines, sort of lamenting the fact that she will never get to be a dragon rider. But yeah, they're all about their dragons. We then get Lady Erin coming in with news.
I bring good news, Rhaena. Prince Regio has answered your letter. He'll be most pleased to shelter Rhaenyra's youngest sons in Pentos.
Now, this is going to mean that she can't pursue the dragon here that's roaming around, so she better get to it quickly if she wants to have any chance at becoming a dragon rider. So maybe that might be something that comes up in the next 2 episodes, is this whole dragon confrontation. We then cut to Adam and Alan, and Adam is talking about not fooling anyone by shaving his head.
You know you're not fooling anyone.
Is that because he looks so much like Corlys, or is it an open secret that Corlys has 2 bastards? I'm pretty sure it's doing a pretty good job of fooling people if he's bald, and one of the only ways to tell that you're related to the Valaryons is by your golden hair. So I'm not sure what this means.
Lord Corlys has chosen to raise you up, to serve alongside him, and yet you still continue this subterfuge.
I mean, would it be so bad if everybody found out that you were related? No, maybe it would be good for your station in life, as is Alan's point of view. But Adam still is very uncomfortable and maybe even shamed and embarrassed by this fact, especially because it took so long for Corlys to really start to acknowledge him at all. I mean, he literally had to save Corlys' life and have Corlys' heirs removed from the picture for him to start thinking about him. So yeah, maybe he has a lot of bitter resentment towards the fact that he's a bastard son, a bastard Valaryon.
The sea snake would sooner have high tide claimed by the sea than call us his sons.
Adam then says, you're kind of preying on a dream, on a hope here, Alan, that Corlys will even acknowledge us as his sons. Yes, he's promoting me because I saved his life. But is he actually going to give us anything of worth because we're his sons? Is he actually going to call us his sons? Very unclear. And so Adam's playing the practical man while Alan is playing the hopeful man. We then get a scene with Rhaenyra and Jace, and he talks about Rhaenyra striking Lord Bartimos, the Cultigar guy, the old guy that she slapped in the hallway. Yeah. She talks about maybe taking his tongue out in the future.
They say you struck Lord Bartimos today.
He's lucky I did not have his tongue.
I mean, Rhaenyra, you've got like 5 really powerful people in your council. You've already sent one away. Corlys is sailing away. You burned one of your top Kingsguard. I mean, you're not going to have a lot of allies left if you keep alienating people and potentially cutting out their tongues. Like, this is not going to end well for you if you keep removing people who seem to be speaking logically in your life. It's just gonna end badly.
And what did he say that was so deserving?
And yeah, Jace even asks, what did he say? What did he actually say that deserved him to get slapped in front of the servants?
I have tired of being protected. I bring to mind too much their mothers or their daughters.
So Rhaenyra is here talking about the fact that she's just seen as a dainty female, and the symbols of power are actually swords and shields and things that men are typically seen to be holding.
They must see in me a ruler. And the symbols of authority are not jewels and gowns, but the shield and the sword.
And she just can't inspire that. She feels she can't inspire that with her current station. Jace even asks Rhaenyra if she's going to lead them to war herself.
Will you lead us to war yourself?
For a certainty, I cannot remain here, pacing the floors, waiting for defeat and despair to visit me.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
We're all like Jace here, waiting for her to actually make a real move. whether it's going to be the right move or not, she needs to do something and do it fast. Because as Jace explains here, they just don't have the power at the moment because they haven't made the moves.
We may marshal the strength of the Vale, Maidenpool, and all our allies besides. We will still never match the strength of the Green Armies.
We will still never match the strength of the Green Armies. So yeah, even with all these little moves that Rhaenyra has tried to make or can make, it's still not enough.
We need Daemon and his dragon.
They need Daemon and his dragon. They need the House of the Dragon to be strong and united. Because honestly, if you get one more rider, which that by the end of this episode, you're going to have Seasmoke on your side again. You're going to have Seasmoke, Caraxes, Jace's dragon, who I forgot his name, and Syrax, which is Rhaenyra's dragon. You're going to have 4 dragons and potentially 2 more to be claimed against Vhagar, and you could burn a whole lot of shit. I'm pretty sure Vhagar cannot kill all 4 of those dragons at once. So it's going to get serious if you guys can band together and find a way to really work things out. But I think Daemon is just a big fork in the, a big wrench in the whole plan. And it's gonna come down to the House of the Dragon uniting once again. But Rhaenyra is not having the whole Daemon thing. She despises that man at the moment.
May I be free for even 1 hour of the constant refrain of Daemon, Daemon, Daemon.
It's okay though, because Lady Mysaria is here with a gift.
Your Grace, the Lady Mysaria.
My queen, our gift is sent.
Or rather, a gift has been sent. And we'll see what that gift is in a moment. Now we see these fishermen or sea scavengers really outside of King's Landing at the bay, at the ocean. And they see a gift from the Blacks in the form of a little boat packed full of a lot of food. Possibly one of many of these gifts sent from Rhaenyra, which is going to really bolster her identity and her, give her a better angle than the Greens in terms of the optics from the Smallfolk, which is a great addition to the plan of stirring up shit about the famine, about the blockade, about the hunger in Flea Bottom, in King's Landing, and then solving the problem at the same time. Raising the issue, solving the problem. Rhaenyra is going to look like a god to the Smallfolk, and that is exactly what Mysaria wanted. So the plan is well executed. We then get one of the most interesting things to happen. A repercussion from last season. Do you guys remember Lord Beesbury, the guy who got his head smashed by Sir Criston Cole in the previous season? Yeah, well, guess what? His death was not for nothing because Grand Maester comes in here and drops this line on Alicent.
There is war in the Reach now, Your Grace. House Beesbury has raised arms against the High Tower host. Retribution for their lord's demise.
House Beesbury is now openly fighting with House Hightower, and Otto is nowhere to be found. Maybe he's on his way back to King's Landing, and nobody knows about this yet besides Larys and Aemond. Maybe he's off somewhere else, trying to secure alliances. Maybe he just doesn't want any part of this politics shit anymore, and he's effed off into a cave somewhere. We don't know. But Lord Beesbury's house stands strong, and the Beesburys remember. Yeah, at least we got some consequences carrying over from season 1, unlike the whole dragon pit thing. Rhaenys kind of got away pretty fairly with very little repercussions, even though she stomped out like 100, 300, 500 small folk with her dragon. Interesting. At least they're taking some of these subtleties into the story, especially with Beesbury here. We might get justice for Beesbury. Hashtag justice for Beesbury in the comments, because that guy he did not deserve what he got. Kristen's a bastard for that. We then get Alicent in this shot. She's always caged up in these shots. She's always between walls, between barriers. She's always being guarded. She's always being suffocated by her surroundings. So if you want to look into the cinematography of shots like this, I kind of see the iconography behind it and the meaning behind it as Alicent being trapped in her position here as Queen Dowager, now downgraded off the council as well. So she's feeling more hopeless than ever, more helpless than ever as well. And things are not going her way. She's trapped. She then goes to send off her brother, Gawain Hightower, and Sir Criston Cole as well.
Gwaine. 'Tis well that I found you.
This scene is sort of mirroring the scene from previous in the season where she sent them off to Rook's Rest. But this scene's going to be a lot different than that one. Sir Gawain is now looking shell-shocked instead of his old cocky self that he was in the prior send-off. And Kristen does not approach Alicent at all, but instead glances at a distance, and they seem to be out of sync compared to previous, when I guess arguably they were out of sync before, but now more than ever, as shown by this whole send-off scene, contrasting with its previous counterpart. She keeps looking over, and Kristen keeps looking over, and they miss each other. Alicent talks about trying to contact Otto, and he's just completely ignoring all messages, but Gawain says the letters would have been wrote to you, Alicent.
If he wrote letters, it would be to you. You were always his favorite.
She then talks about, the reversal of roles. What if Gawain was raised in King's Landing and she at Old Town? What would be different?
I often wonder what life could have been if he had brought you to court instead.
Maybe Gawain would have had to been married off to Rhaenyra. That could have been a very interesting alliance. That could have solved everything, to be honest. If Otto had just thought of that, boom, things could have been in great standing. Alicent then says a very important line as she says,
I'm the eldest son. It was right that I was raised at Old Town.
You were 8 years of age and motherless. It must have been difficult.
Now, this is important because Gawain then talks to her about her kids, specifically her youngest kid, Daemon, who's raised motherless and at Old Town. And apparently, he's a very good, true of heart, passionate young man.
You were 8 years of age and motherless. It must have been difficult. My son, Daemon, what's he like?
10 and 6 now. He's stalwart. Clever. As adept with his lute as he is with his sword.
Now, Alicent is coming to realize that A, her kids that did have a mother...
Kindness is a quality I found lacking in his brothers.
...are kind of messed up. And B, it's not exactly the mother that raises somebody, it's the environment that raises them.
Yes, it seems the Red Keep may, in fact, be a less than salubrious environment for the forming of young men.
And this is kind of hitting her in this scene as she talks with Gawain.
Was it the court? Was it their mother?
I'm sure you did your best.
Was it the court or was it their mother? She doesn't know whether to blame herself for her shitty kids or the environment. She's having a struggle with this idea of what raises a child. And was it her fault? Probably a combination of both. When you have a bad mother and you're raised in a bad environment, you're going to be awful. So well done, Alicent. Well done. And finally, as the scene ends, we get one little interaction between Alicent and Kristen, but all it is a glance and a subtle nod as she sends him off in the most impersonal way yet, especially when compared to the previous scene, like I said. So quite sad. We see a lot of distance between Kristen and Alicent, and she knows maybe he might not ever come back from this dangerous mission of theirs. We then cut to a scene between Alicent and Helaena, and Alicent sees Helaena playing with these little bugs in cages. And one of the bugs is no longer singing.
This one stopped singing.
Now, what could that mean? Well, it is known that Daemon is a player of the lute, a man of the arts, and now he is potentially marching to war. So maybe he is no longer singing, literally. But it could be a reference to a myriad of things. Helena's visions are so mysterious, nobody can really pin them down until we truly see the aftermath, the future, if you will. Alicent then invites Helaena to light a candle, aka pray at the sept for Aegon. We then get a scene of Hugh in the streets as a riot over the food sent from Rhaenyra breaks out.
Give it to me!
Hugh will do anything for his family, it seems, even though he was trying to play the fair game at first, whereas his wife was the one talking about how perhaps they might have to do some not so honorable things to keep their family alive.
They came ashore in the middle of the night with gifts from the Queen. She thinks of us even now.
As we see from this Smallfolk, he is spreading the word that Rhaenyra is thinking of them. Even now, in this time of war, in this time of need, in this time of peril for the Blacks, they are still sending offerings to the Smallfolk. Now we cut back to Alicent and Helaena, and they are praying in the sept, but the Kingsguard are ushering them out because there has been a riot breaking out. And honestly, it might have been safer for them to just stay inside the sept. But no, these Kingsguard are sort of inept and being rushed to their duty. So they think the best plan is to, well, get them out in the open first and expose them to the riot. Yes, they have to get in their little chariot, but do you have to do it in the middle of this riot? Could you not have guarded the sept and waited further? I mean, it could be pretty easy for this chariot to get pushed over if enough small folk raid you. But anyways, what happens is one of the Kingsguard goes for a full Luke Skywalker here, or if you want to call it a Vader here, and cuts off the hand of one of the small folk, which leads to him getting pummeled and basically probably murdered himself. I think this is one of the Kingsguard that Aegon appointed. So well done for appointing a bunch of idiots to your council, Aegon. I mean, Jesus, man. No foresight. No foresight. Alicent even says no before the Kingsguard cut off this dude's hand. She doesn't want to escalate the violence. She's wiser than them, and yet they still disobey her orders and go for the easy, violent act. She then says, sheathe your swords.
Your swords!
Put the weapons away. We don't want to escalate this further. We've already messed up enough. Let's just get out of here. But it's too late. They do eventually listen to her. They do sheathe their swords, but it's too late. But they do eventually escape, and it turns out that Alicent was actually cut on her wrist in the same spot that Rhaenyra was cut by Alicent on her wrist. So yeah, karma is a bitch. The circle of violence continues, you know? That's just how this world works. Sin begets sin, as they say. We then cut to a scene with Larys coming to have a good old chat with young King Aegon here. And he denies the king his milk of the poppy so that he can have an open conversation, an intelligible conversation with him. And it's quite funny.
No more.
My lord, only the Grand Maester instructed me to.
This is Larys going directly against Aemond here. Literally, as Aemond said, keep the king, you know, basically sedated. And Larys is like, no, don't, because I need to control Aegon here and manipulate him. And I need him awake and cognizant to make this happen. Now, Larys could not curry enough favor with Aemond, so he's come to his next best choice, especially if Aegon is to live and potentially thrive even after his injuries. Larys is going to be in his pocket, riding his coattails, pulling his strings even. But he does this in a very emotional and cunning way. And the way he does this is he relates his life experience with his foot injury or his foot birth defect, basically a hindrance, a handicap that he's had, sort of the way Aegon is now going to have to experience with his injuries, which are likely going to last for life. The scars, potentially the lack of mobility that he'll have with his leg, and just the way people are going to see him is going to be different now. And he's going to have to become stronger for that, just as Larys is. So Larys, a cunning bastard, using his personal pain and his personal history to connect and bond with Aegon so that he can manipulate him in the long run. What a guy. And then in the final words of this meeting, Larys drops this bomb on Aegon.
Your brother rules in your place now, which means that your life is in danger. But I think you know that.
And so Aegon agrees to get help from Larys because he's going to need some powerful allies, of which he seemingly has none. Not even his own mother cares too much for him. Even though she tries, she really doesn't. So Larys is going to be his only powerful ally once he makes his way out of this recovery of sorts. It's going to be an interesting dynamic duo to see on screen and see if these underdogs can pull anything off or if they're just going to get lost in the fray. We then get another scene with Daemon having visions of Viserys. And this one is very important as Viserys is seen mourning his dead wife, Alyssa. An event that Daemon was not there to help soothe his brother's emotions, to help calm his brother after the death. He was not really there for that. He was drinking around in town, calling his dead nephew the heir for a day and celebrating the fact that he might be the heir again. But this time, we might see Daemon taking a step in the right direction in his visions. Finally, maybe a redemption arc of sorts within the visions as he actually goes to comfort his brother instead of running away as he did prior in the Great Hall scene, the throne room scene, where instead of confronting his brother about the heir for a day issue, he tried to run and the doors were locked on him. Well, now here he is again with another chance at redemption, and he goes for it. Even a simple gesture such as being close with his brother and physically caressing him, holding him, showing his support, even in the smallest way, is a big step for Daemon's character. Is it going to mean he's fully redeemed? No, but it's showing us a willingness for him to face his issues, for him to be a different person than he was prior. So it's a step in the right direction. But like always, he wakes up in the middle of some bullshit with Strong here, with sorrowful news from Riverrun.
Sorrowful news from Riverrun, my king.
But is it going to be actually that sorrowful? I think that's an ironic statement here.
Lord Grover is dead.
The old man.
Oh, yeah. Remember the old guy who shits himself all the time, can barely speak, couldn't keep control of the Riverruns because he was senile? Yeah. Lord Grover Tully is dead. Now, who's going to be in charge?
Young Oscar Tully is now Lord Paramount of the Riverlands.
Ah, yes. Young Oscar Tully, another member of the Sesame Street clan. The Tullys. And here's the thing. This was the kid that Daemon tried to manipulate into killing his grandsire, Grover Tully. And so now he's going to be able to possibly manipulate that kid for real, because the kid now has a shit ton of political power, and Daemon needs that power to be on his side. So we're going to see some more Oscar Daemon interactions in the very near future. I can guarantee it. And this is actually not sorrowful news for Daemon. It's actually great news, coming right after he made his first step into the light, a victory of sorts in the form of a death, the death of Grover Tully. Finally, that guy died. But who did it? Who killed him? Did he just die of natural causes? I mean, he was already dying, right? But who killed him?
What was the manner of Lord Grover's passing?
Well, he'd been ill, of course.
Oh, he'd been ill, yeah.
Riverrun's maesters have been at their wits' end.
Riverrun's maesters have been at their wits' end, so they're kind of doing everything they could, just like they were for Viserys, right?
Our own healer, Alice Rivers, volunteered her renowned skills. She plied her craft, but there was not more to be done.
Oh, Alice Rivers. Yeah, that's the big wrench in things here, or the wench in the plan. She volunteered her renowned skills, says Lord Strong. And sadly, her skills were so good that he just up and died right when she got there. Interesting. Very curious. The look when he says she plied her craft, but there was not more to be done. And the fact that Simon Strong is very good at veiling his words and speaking politically correctly, while maybe meaning something else with his undertones. I think that he knows exactly what happened here, and he just isn't willing to say it out loud so he doesn't betray his own character or his own presentation of his character, if you will. He wants to remain aloof and neutral and politically correct without being like, yeah, we sent Alice Rivers over there to kill him so that you could move on with your schemes. I mean, if for nothing else, I think Simon Strong wants to help Daemon just so he can move on with his life. Maybe he's secretly rooting for Daemon to be the one to finally triumph over Harrenhal after all these years of it being a derelict, haunted castle. But who knows? He doesn't wear his, true feelings or true intentions on his sleeve very much, if I do say so. But the look on Daemon's face is a look of victory and a look of satisfaction. Look at that smug bastard. He's almost in tears over it. But I'm not sure. Is he crying over his brother or over the fact that he just got a huge victory in the Riverlands? Then we get the infamous scene with the Dragon, Seasmoke, and Alan of Hull, the bastard son of Lord Corlys. And oh boy, this is frightening, terrifying when you see a dragon flying at you on the beach. You never know if it's just hungry that day and it's coming to eat you. I mean, that's always going to be the case with dragons, is 50-50 when they're flying at you. Friend or foe, usually foe, so maybe not 50-50. But anyways, you get the point. This scares the shit out of everyone on the beach, including Alan. But the dragon isn't burning anybody. The dragon is not eating anybody. And what is it doing? Well, it's chasing down Alan into the forest. And this makes a little bit of sense as, you know, Valaryons have potentially Targaryen blood from ancient ancestry. They definitely are of Valyrian descent. Valyria is where all the dragon riding families come from. So there could be dragon riding blood deep within the Valaryon house, even though he's not a direct descendant of a Targaryen specifically. But also it makes sense because of the foreshadowing in the show where we see earlier Seasmoke was kind of circling over Alan, spying on him, maybe judging him, getting a whiff of him literally and figuratively. And now he has claimed his rider, which is not a usual thing. I don't think this happens in any of the books or the Fire and Blood book. I don't think dragons claim people other than the fact that they hatch for people. So maybe it's not without precedent, but it's certainly a brand new action that we've never seen on screen. And like I said, eggs do hatch for specific people. So maybe this is a different form of an egg hatching anew in the form of an old dragon hatching a new bond for a new rider. So I'm willing to accept this as part of the plot, even though a lot of people see it as cheap or corny or not in canon, not in lore. If you accept the fact that dragon eggs can hatch for people, you have to accept the fact that they can then form a bond with somebody either later after they hatch or after a rider has passed away or moved on. It makes sense to me. He's looking for that Rhaenyra type. I mean, they even have similar hairstyle. They have a similar build, and they are from the same family. So it makes sense that this would be a choice for him for a rider. Cool. We're at the infamous Mysaria scene. And for any of you weirdos on Reddit, you got your wish. You finally shipped these two characters together in a way. And this is how the scene goes down.
It is as we hoped, a warning to the usurpers that you have strength beyond what they accredited.
Look at the Chad face that Mysaria is serving up to Rhaenyra. Are you kidding me? I can't even do it like that. She's just a pro at it. Look at her. She's sort of buttering up Rhaenyra here, talking about their plans going well, exactly as planned with the Smallfolk in King's Landing. And this is really warming up Rhaenyra to the cunnilingus nature of Mysaria here. But yeah, that 1,000-yard Chad stare here is just incredible. I can't believe I got that freeze frame. She's just holding it. She's really going for the seduction here.
I thought you'd be pleased.
I thought she'd be pleased. Well, if you're not pleased yet, I'm going to please you in a minute. Anyways, Rhaenyra then expresses her fears and her emotions to Mysaria when she talks again about Jace and Daemon.
I do not think I can win this war. My own son questions my capabilities. He thinks I need Daemon at my side.
She's always talking about Daemon. She hates that people think she needs Daemon, but she does. Even if she was a man, even if she was Viserys, she needed Daemon. That would be a huge benefit to anybody to have Daemon, arguably an in-control Daemon, on your side. He's a powerful warlord. He's a powerful dude in this Westeros realm. So it doesn't matter if you got a dick or not. You need a Daemon. That was one of the points of contention between Viserys and Daemon, is that Viserys didn't know how to use Daemon properly or didn't want to because he was scared of him because he's a powerful guy. So yeah, you do need Daemon. You should just shut the hell up about this Daemon shit, Rhaenyra, and just try to come to terms with him.
He wished to possess me, but not to be possessed. I fear he may have turned against me.
She even thinks Daemon has now turned fully against her, which could be true as we've seen from his side of things. But Mysaria thinks, no, he's just running away, solving his own problems.
It is more his way to disappear.
In either case, I've lost him.
Doesn't matter, though, because he's not communicating at all to Rhaenyra about any of his ongoings at Harrenhal. Anyways, she talks about not having enough resources.
Rhaenys and her dragon are dead. I have Syrax and 2 young beasts. We cannot take on Vhagar alone.
She says, I have Syrax and 2 young beasts. I guess is she referencing Jace's dragon as a young beast and Joffrey's dragon, or whoever's dragon that is at the Vale? Is she calling Jace's dragon a young beast? I guess it is a young beast, but still, she seems not to put any stature on Jace whatsoever. Every time she talks about him, she brings him up as a baby. She brings up his dragon as a baby. She doesn't even mention his name. She doesn't say, I have Jace at all. She just says 2 young beasts, and she cannot take on Vhagar alone. But Mysaria reassures her by saying this.
And I have no army.
You have the Valaryon fleet and the men who fight in it.
You have the fleet and the men who fight in it. It's cool. You got a bunch of boats. That's one thing, but you have a whole other area of land to cover outside of the boats, my friend. So, Mysaria, you're not being very convincing. Maybe you need to kiss her ass even harder.
How will I rule a kingdom when my own son doubts me?
You have me.
Oh, your own son doubts you, but you have Mysaria, who thinks that a bunch of boats and causing a ruckus with the Smallfolk is going to win you the war. So what does this lead to? Well, it leads to them talking about the scar on Mysaria's neck, which is revealed that was not caused by Daemon after all, but her father, who used to abuse her. And for lack of better words for the algorithm, her father had his sweet ways with her. You do the math on that. But it ended up in a scar on her neck and a scar in her midsection, causing her to never be able to have children again, which really gives a sympathy vote to Mysaria from Rhaenyra here, and they end up embracing and making out. Is that really an appropriate time to make out right after you talked about the misgivings of your father in such a cruel and violent way? I don't know. Was this played up enough to where it made sense? I'm going to be controversial and say yes, this kiss overall made sense, but I'm going to retract my statement a little bit by saying I think it should have came, no pun intended, a couple episodes down the line when we develop their relationship a little further. But we only get 8 episodes this season, and budgets are a thing, so I guess it's all right. I don't have a problem with them 2 kissing. I just wish there was a couple more hints earlier on, or a deeper relationship, or a better segue into making it. I mean, they're bonding over male trauma. You know, she's speaking about Daemon and her woes, and Mysaria is speaking about her father and her woes. So overall, I'm going to give it a pass. And I don't care that it's a girl on girl thing. In fact, that's kind of exciting. But I just wonder if it was fully earned, you know? I would have felt the same way if it was male-male or male-female. So don't come at me for that angle. But yeah, I'm just questioning if it was fully earned. I do accept it, though, and it does make a little bit of sense. Enough sense for me to let it slide, but it did shock me, okay? Let me know in the comments what you thought about this moment. This was the big moment of the episode, apparently, for a lot of people that made or broke the episode for them. A make or break deal, if you will. But the kiss is swiftly interrupted.
Begging your pardon.
Are there no door locks for the queen? People can just barge in like this, unexpected. I feel like she would really be locking her doors these days, especially after the whole assassin deal. Like, come on. We're supposed to double our guard, but we don't do that. And then we don't even lock our doors? What is going on with the blacks here? They have terrible security. Just going to say that.
The dragon Seasmoke has been sighted flying over Spicetown.
Yes, he does that.
From what we have heard, he has a rider.
But the dragon Seasmoke has been sighted flying over Spicetown, and it has a new rider. Who could that be? Well, we know, but Rhaenyra has no clue, and she needs to find out fast if this rider is on her side, because this could mean huge things for her army and for her tactics and for her goals against the Greens. I mean, this is going to turn the tides. Another rider, Seasmoke, an experienced dragon. This is huge. So she gets on her dragon right away and takes off. I love how the dragons are always right at the ready for it. Like, they weren't out hunting or anything. She's just like has them on command. I guess maybe they're supposed to stay down there the whole time. They're trained to do that. But yeah, it's kind of funny. They have this little dragon garage. It's like the Bat Cave, but it's like the Dragon Cave. They just pull out their Batmobile instantly. You know, they got the keys and everything. But yeah, she takes off. Epic shot right here. Look at this. This is crazy. That is Sarazi. Sorry, stupid Cyrax joke. And the episode ends there. So, guys, overall, I give this episode a 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. There wasn't too much that bothered me. I think the most on-the-nose stuff was the Mysaria plot. It was a little cheat codey. Like, things just work out perfectly for Mysaria whenever she wants to. And then the whole kiss thing, was it earned? Not quite sure. But other than that, I don't have much of a problem with the writing in this episode. I do have a problem with Aemond's character all of a sudden becoming way too egotistical for his own good. I mean, he already had an ego, right? But now his ego is overtaking his ability to be a strategist. He is making good moves and bad moves. Like, I think he's being way too rash with the whole Harrenhal thing and not wanting to maybe consider the Lannisters' request of support with Vhagar. He's being way too vague with his instructions to Kristen. Oh, I'll join you soon. Just when I need to, I'll join you. Whenever my uncle wants to fight. Like, bro, bring the fight to him if you're such a formidable foe, right? So Aemon's becoming a bit of a nuisance character, more so than he ever was. And now I'm on Team Aegon and Larys more than ever. Two shitheads coming together for a redemption arc. That's going to be amazing to see. It's going to be fantastic to see what happens with Rhaena and her dragon. Or does she get a dragon? I don't know. It seems like they're setting her up for a Seasmoke thing. A sheep stealer thing. But who knows how Rhaenyra is going to make use of her new plaything, Dragonrider, boy toy, bastard, son of Corlys Valaryon. Lots of words, lots of names. But guys, that has been my wrap up of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 6. I already forgot the title. Oh, Smallfolk is the title. Anyways, I love you guys 3,000. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great day. Thank you to my members and my subscribers. Again, I love you so much. 3,000 times. Bye-bye.